In December 2024, Richardson Hitchins walked into the ring against Australia's unbeaten star, Liam Paro. Just one fight after winning the title, Hitchins delivered a masterclass in control, distance, and discipline. He made Paro look like a fighter out of his element, jabbing, pivoting, and picking him apart from round 5 onwards. Hitchins outlanded Paro 87-56 and posted a clean 29.9% punch accuracy to Paro's 17.4. The Aussie couldn't get inside, couldn't disrupt the rhythm, and couldn't change the story Hitchins was writing. It was clear, Hitchins isn't just there as a contender, he's a surgeon in there. Now, George Kambosos Jr. wants to flip that script. Now let's talk about George Kambosos. He has a record of 22-3 and 10 KOs. He's had a number of accomplishments. He's a former unified lightweight world champion. He had WBA, IBF, WBO, and back in 2021, he had one of the biggest upsets of that year by beating Teofimo Lopez. Huge. He's also shared the ring with Devin Haney twice and Vasily Lomachenko, which, as we know, are all very significantly great fighters. Now, George Kambosos' strengths has lightning quick footwork. He has that ability to close the distance very, very quickly, and he's a high pressure fighter. So he's going to come in, he's going to out-volume somebody. He may not have the power to devastate someone, but he has that high pressure style. If they want to engage with him, that's where he will thrive. He has mental toughness. From facing these elite names under the brightest of lights, he has the fortitude to actually keep going when things start getting a bit tough. So some keys to victory. George Kambosos will need to have an explosive entry. He needs that first step speed to break Hitchins' rhythm, right? He has to make it ugly. He can't keep it clean. Can't be a clean technical fight. Kambosos will thrive in chaos, but he can't make it a clean fight and lean into the strengths of Hitchins. And thirdly, those volume and the stamina. If he can drag it out late and get Hitchins into these deep waters with that volume and test that gas tank, perhaps that's where it's going to be the X factor to get him that victory that he needs. We've spoken to someone that has trained with Richardson Hitchins before, and he said he hasn't been tested yet. He hasn't been at that level. So by taking him deep and making him perhaps revert back to older techniques that he may do, for example, that was saying Farid Samad said he likes to fight on the inside, and under pressure, what he can do is actually go back to that, and that could be a weakness there, where George Kambosos will thrive. But there are concerns. George only fought once at 140 pounds, with a UD win over Jack Wiley in Australia earlier this year. He explained in the interviews that he still needs time to settle into the new weight class, and to be honest, as a spectator, I don't think we've seen enough power at 140 to be convinced, and we haven't seen a lot of reps from George Kambosos at 140, so a lot of those questions still need to be answered, I think, to the general public. George Kambosos said he did feel good at 140 pounds, but there's still a lot of work to do. The division's different. It's the first time he said he had to cut the weight to 140 pounds, and there's a lot of firsts for this fight. Now, the future prospects here is that if he does win, he'll become a two-division world champion, right? And this sets up potential fights with Matias or Teofimo again at 140 pounds. On the other hand, if he does lose this fight, it's going to be, the man's going to have a lot of big upside still with Matchroom and a lot of these organizations. His potential to come to Australia and have an Australia versus Australia showdown with Liam Paro, and we'll definitely know that will sell insanely well in Australia, and something I'd be personally very excited about. Paro himself recently said in a few interviews, he's been saying a few things. He just simply said, "Good luck to George," when I was speaking to him. It was a subtle, maybe respectful pass of the torch, or it's a challenge. I definitely think it's a challenge. He's also come out and said that if George doesn't get stopped, he's losing 12 rounds. And that's Liam Paro's prediction. We'll see if that comes to life. Now let's talk about Hitchins. He has a record of 19 wins, 0 losses, and 7 KOs. Now, he's a rather accomplished fighter as well. He's the current IBF super lightweight champion. He's a former Olympian from Haiti. He beat undefeated Paro, the Australian Liam Paro, and Jose Zepeda, and they beat them with relative ease. This man's strengths: he has an elite jab and great range control. You can kind of see him as a prototypical American boxer. He's calm, he's very composed under pressure, and especially that pressure that Liam Paro was bringing, he managed to stay composed. He has excellent accuracy, and he's very defensively responsible and has good defensive awareness. We will probably see him not make too many mistakes, not put himself in a position where he may be countered, where he's going to rely on that jab and that range control to get the win. Right, we're not going to expect huge KOs, which is reflective in his record: 19 wins and only 7 KOs. The keys for victory for Hitchins: he needs to keep it clean. Don't let Kambosos turn this into a brawl. Use the same methodology that you used against Liam Paro. You can't get dragged into the brawl because that is not your game. Right, establish range early. The jab needs to get control of George's entries, and you need to mitigate those as soon as possible. You need to slow him down. Use the counters on the break, make George hesitate and break his rhythm. Whether or not, make him respect your power early. You know he will continue to come all rounds, all right? But he's come up from 130. You have to try and use your naturally bigger size to try and break that rhythm and injure him, or rattle him and gain that respect. What makes Hitchins dangerous isn't just talent. It's that he's never panics, he never overreaches. His fights are won by inches, and he's rarely given any away. He's quite a technician. The concerns here: he hasn't really been in any dogfights yet. How react if George wants to walk through the jab and has no fear of that? And in reality, I don't think he's been tested at elite level. Hasn't faced anyone like Lomachenko or Lopez at all. Yes, Liam Paro is a very good fighter. He has power and he is dangerous, and he had a lot of success against that. However, I don't think he's been fully tested at this particular level. And also, one thing I do want to bring, and I want to be honest, Richardson Hitchins sounds like 2 last names, and it confuses everybody, and it really confuses me every single time. So if we can fix that, that'd be fantastic. Now, on the flip side, if the guy wins, he's got that unification fight or some big fights with Haney, Matthias, or Teofimo at 140. That could be huge. And it's going to cement him as possibly one of the best technicians in the sport if he gets that big win. In the future, if he loses, now he's still young. It's not a career killer if he loses against George Kambosos, but that hype train will slow. Okay. Big questions are about the mental grit and a plan B if his style gets cracked. All right, it's going to be a hard style to crack, but if it does, that's a question that we need answered from that. All I want to say with this analysis is that styles make fights. All right, we've got a surgeon versus soldier, the rhythm versus disruptor, and that jab versus explosivity. Hitchins' biggest advantage is predictability. He creates patterns, controls range, and sets traps. With that said though, have we seen the blueprint on how to beat George Kambosos? Or is that how George can potentially tactically expose them? Haney and Hitchins fight relatively similar. He may just go, okay, that's how I'm going to beat him. He's going to rush in, I'm going to jab him. He's going to rush in, I'm going to disrupt his rhythm. But George knows that. George has that foresight. Okay, he's going to try and fight me like Haney fought me. And maybe that's potentially a strength for him, knowing that I've been beaten like this before. I'm going to make the adjustments. Kambosos' best shot: breaking the rhythm with unpredictable entries at a chaotic pace, and those very quick entries that he has, especially coming up from 135 pounds, that natural speed will still be there. Now, Hitchins is going to try and outbox Kambosos. This is no secret. But George will have to outwill Hitchins. And I think that's where George Kambosos is most successful. Can George close this gap consistently without taking clean shots? That's the question. He's got faster feet than Paro, but maybe not better. But they are quicker. He might be able to cover the distance quicker, but if Hitchins times him early, we could see a hesitation creep in. What's next? Well, on paper, this is Hitchins' fight. It's his fight to lose. He's younger, slicker. He just beat a guy that Kambosos might fight next. But let me remind you, George has never ducked anyone. Haney twice, Teofimo, Lomachenko, no tune-ups, no easy fights. He lives for that pressure. If Kambosos can survive the early rounds and make this messy, don't be shocked if he takes it on heart, aggression, and stamina. If Hitchins keeps it clean, he walks away possibly with another clinic. Is this Kambosos' last stand, or will Hitchins prove to be the next dominant technician at 140? Drop your predictions below. I want the comments. Will it be a war? Will it be a masterclass? And don't forget, if George Kambosos wins, we might see a super lightweight shake-up or even a long-awaited rematch between Teofimo Lopez. Very exciting. I'm Guy McKinnon. This is Then Still Boxing, and until next time.
Thank you for listening. If you liked this episode, please subscribe to the channel for future content.